When playing Dungeons & Dragons, creating an optimized character is a really great way to feel powerful and fit in your role in the party. So of course, we gotta do one for Clerics, because we did it for the Barbarians, so let's make an optimized Cleric. Hey fellow Game Masters, I'm Richard Quiner, and welcome to the RPG Daily, your daily dose of all things tabletop role-playing games, helping you build your world and master your game. Like I said at the beginning, we're making an optimized Cleric character today. We're going to talk about some of the options, things to consider when building a Cleric, so you can make it useful and fill a role in your party. As you finish this video, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this build. What would you do differently? What options would you pick? And so forth. But let's dive into it. When I was thinking of this Cleric and deciding how I wanted to build them, I decided I wanted to fill a gap in a party that's very common, and that is the dedicated healer. A lot of players, when playing Dungeons & Dragons, they want to hit hard, they want to do all the damage, they want to cast the big spells, but it's much more rare to find a character, or a player I should say, it's much rare to find a player that just wants to sit back and keep their party alive. And I think the Cleric is actually one of the best classes to make this kind of character, so I wanted to do that. When deciding a race for a Cleric, you got to consider mainly what races will give you wisdom, what will help you be more wise. And a couple races came to mind for me. Hill Dwarf gives you a +1 to wisdom, the human variant gives you bonuses, a Furbolg gives a +2 to wisdom, and the Warforged Envoy, which is new in the Eberron stuff, also gives you a +1 to your wisdom. But for this one, I decided I wanted to go with the Furbolg. They are a monstrous race, so they don't look like humans. They're a lot bigger. They're more secluded, I guess you could say. But it comes with a +2 to your wisdom and a +1 to strength. But both are really good ability scores to have in this improvement. Plus, the Furbolg also comes with some innate spellcasting, meaning it can just cast spells naturally, not on the level of spell slots and that kind of thing, but just a few little tricks it can kind of keep up its sleeve. I thought that would fit really well with a Cleric, especially with what we're building. So for ability scores, with these, I always go with the array system, which has a scores of 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8 are your options, and you can assign them to whichever ability score you want. So of course, I've assigned the highest to wisdom, so that one gets the 15, and then the 14 is actually going to be my constitution, followed by my 13 is my strength, a 12 intelligence, a 10 dexterity, my 8 will be charisma. I don't need to get along with people. Also for this, my armor class will not really use my dexterity that much, which is why I made that kind of my second lowest. I wanted to lean into having a little more intelligence and being smarter about things, but of course wisdom has to be the number one. Take that array, add the Furbolg's +2 to wisdom, +1 to strength. That leaves me sitting on a 17 wisdom, a 14 constitution, a 14 strength, a 12 intelligence, a 10 dexterity, and an 8 charisma. I think that's a pretty solid array. It is leaning more towards the physical and wisdom, so that's pretty good. For the background, I wanted to pick something that gives me things in wisdom. I wanted to have some skills that would really play into my character's wisdom abilities a little more, so I decided to go with the background of folk hero. Now, folk heroes are people who've done something fantastic for their town or village, saved a bunch of people, and created some notoriety from that. They're one with the common folk, which gives them a feature, as folk heroes get, where the common folk will kind of protect them, help them out, they'll give them a place to stay, they'll protect them from the law a little bit, but when push comes to shove and the lives are on the line, the common folk will not stand up and risk their own lives for the folk hero. What the folk hero gives you, though, is you also get animal handling and survival skill proficiencies, which are not normally something a cleric has access to, but they are wisdom-based, so that just leans more into the wisdom of the cleric. It also gives you proficiency in a set of artisan tools and land vehicles, which land vehicles are kind of fun. If you can get a carriage or something like that, and you are able to drive it, great. Next, getting into your skill choices, you can pick 2 off the list of skills, right? So we're going to pick Insight, which is a wisdom-based skill, which is how do you read people and get to know the inner workings of and understandings of people. It's how you can tell if someone's lying, for example, because by kind of looking at them, you can read their insight. And I'm also going to pick Medicine because, surprise, we're going healer, right? So even if we run out of spells, the medicine checks would give us a chance to stabilize downed allies, which I think is useful if we run out of spells at any point. And at low levels, you're likely to run out of spell slots. Before we get into equipment, we have to pick our Divine Domain because that will tell us some of the equipment we're going to get. So, as I said, we're making a dedicated healer, so we're going to go ahead and pick the Life Domain Cleric, and we're going to focus all our attention on healing things. The Life Domain gives us the opportunity to wear heavy armor, so that means our equipment, we are going to get Chainmail. The other good thing about this Life Domain is the Disciple of Life ability at level 1 allows you to add some more healing to a spell when you cast it. If you cast a level 1 or higher spell, you can add a 2 plus that spell's level to the number of healed hit points that you heal. Now, getting back into the equipment, our first options between a mace and a warhammer, we're going to pick the mace because we don't have proficiency in martial weapons. For our armor, we're going to take chainmail. The chainmail gives us a baseline 16 armor class. Dexterity doesn't help us in this case. It doesn't provide any extra armor class, and this does give us disadvantage on stealth rolls because it's chainmail, it's heavy and cumbersome. But I'd rather be safe in my ball of chainmail than running around without the protection I need because I'm the healer. We're also going to pick up the shield from this and use that all the time with our mace because a shield will give us an 18 armor class, which makes us pretty substantially difficult to hit. Not gonna lie, it's great. Of our second option of weapons, we have the light crossbow versus any simple weapon. I decided let's just stick with the light crossbow on this one, have a quick ranged attack that we can use. We're not dexterous, so it's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be like, oh wow, look at me being an archer. It's just a quick and dirty way to have some range damage in our belt. If we're running out of spell slots or something, it's kind of a backup. Between the Explorer's Pack and the Priest Pack option, I would say go with the Explorer's Pack. The Priest Pack does have some more specific things depending on your deity and how you want to play the character. If you want them to be a very religious kind of acolyte being, cool, go with that. I personally like the Explorer Pack and all the cool stuff you get in there, so I'm going with Explorer Pack. Now, getting into the rest of this build, I'm not going to go over all the stuff of the Life Domain. If you want to watch that, you can go watch my Life Domain Cleric video. It explains everything you get for free. But we're talking about the ability score improvements or feats that you have options available to you a little bit, and I'm just going to tell you how I would pick them building this character. For Clerics, you get ability score improvements or feats at level 4, 8, 12, 16, and 19. If you make it that far. So let's get into that. Right at level 4, I would probably go with the Warcaster feat to get that advantage on Constitution saving throws. I think that is a little more powerful and more potent than Resilient at this level. Plus, being able to cast your spells without having to put down your shield and mace is really good, or having those stowed away so you can constantly have your 18 armor class and constantly be able to hit something. I think Warcaster feat is a great level 4 start. It doesn't improve your ability scores yet, but we will get to that very soon. At level 8, we'll take our Resilient feat. We'll put the +1 in our Constitution and get our saving throw proficiency in that. So right away, in our lower levels, we've beefed up our Constitution and our chance of saving on concentration spells a lot more. Our ability to cast spells in our heavy armor is much better. I like it. And we've also boosted our Constitution up to 15 instead of 14. At level 12, we're going to take the ability score improvement, and I'm going to put 1 in Wisdom, 1 in Constitution. This is going to take Wisdom up to 18, Constitution up to 16, which will improve the modifiers for both of those ability scores by 1. I think that's a good point. It's a little late in the game. Sometimes you want to do this earlier, but for me, I opted to go for keeping my concentration spells up and being survivable in the game that way first. At level 16, we're going to do another ability score improvement. We're going to bump our Wisdom up to 20, which will max out our Wisdom score. Give us a +5 modifier on that. By this point, our proficiency score is also through the roof. We're doing really good on that. And then at level 19, we're going to do it one more time and get our Constitution up to 18, make that a +4 modifier. That's kind of how I would do this one. I wouldn't get too crazy in all the feats, just because I want to survive and I want to have high numbers on my Wisdom and my Constitution. Talking about spells you could pick, I decided to pick 1 spell from each spell level, but I'm not going to go in depth because my last thing on when I did that, it took a long time. So this one, I'm just going to hit the spells real quick, tell you what I would pick at each spell level. What I was thinking of when doing this was I was trying to find healing spells at each level that could work. The Life Domain already gets some really good ones, so in those cases I may have picked a utility spell or something like that. But these are spells that are generally healing focused. I think it's a good idea to have at least one healing spell per spell slot level to maximize the chances of being able to cast those spells. You know, we only have a limited pool of spell slots available to us, and when you run out of one high-level spell slot, having the lower levels available and healing there also makes it really good potential to just keep people alive just a little longer. You gotta survive. So for cantrips, I chose this spell, Spare the Dying. It's a real simple way. It just stabilizes a creature that has been dropped down to 0 hit points, keeps them alive. When I say stabilize, that means they don't have to make any death saving throws, which means they are not at risk of dying permanently. At level 1, I picked the spell Healing Word. You already have a really good level 1 healing spell, but this one gives you a ranged spell to heal with a bonus action that gives you a 1d4 plus your Wisdom ability modifier. I think that's pretty good for in a pinch, and a bonus action makes it able to be cast all the time, you know, as long as you have spell slots at least. So I think that's great at low levels. At level 2, I picked Prayer of Healing. This is not a combat healing ability, but this is like a between combat. It just gives you a chance, if you got 10 minutes in the dungeon, you can say a little prayer and heal your party for 2d8 plus your Wisdom modifier damage. You can heal the whole party that, which is nice. At level 3, I picked Mass Healing Word. Mass Healing Word is a lot like Healing Word. It's again a bonus action, ranged healing, but this time you can heal your whole party for the 1d4 plus your Wisdom modifier. For level 4 spells, you don't really have any healing spells, but this time I picked Freedom of Movement because that is a utility spell that not a lot of people are going to get. It keeps you from getting bogged down by rough terrain or water or being trapped or kind of entangled. So I think that's really good. You can give that to other party members or yourself in a pinch. In one of our games recently, our party's Cleric actually fell into a rushing river and was being washed away. And while the rest of the party was like, oh crap, we gotta get him, and we were getting a rope and throwing it out to him and stuff, he just cast Freedom of Movement on himself. The river had no effect on him, and he just walked out. We will probably never hear the end of that. At level 5, I suggest Greater Restoration. It's kind of a healing spell. It doesn't really give back hit points, but it does remove curses and diseases and ability score modifiers that might make an ability score lower, for example. It just, you know, gets a player getting back up in top-notch shape real quickly. For level 6, the healing spell is Heal. If you remember me talking about spells, I had picked one called Harm for best cleric spells. This is kind of the opposite of that, where you can pick a target and heal them for 70 hit points right away. And it also cures blindness and deafness and a couple other status effects. At level 7, you're going to want to stock up on your diamonds worth 1,000 gold because you're going to be using Resurrection to keep your party alive if they ever die. At this point, you probably will have some deaths going on, and this is a good way to bring them all back. But be careful of the physical taxing nature of it, as after you cast this, you can't cast another spell for the rest of the day, and you're going to be rolling ability scores and attacks and saving throws with disadvantage, so you're going to want to rest up as soon as you cast Resurrection. At level 8, again, there were no really healing spells, so I picked one called Holy Aura, which is a buff for your party. You basically create an aura of light, and any creatures within that aura, who are your allies, also cast out a 5-foot radius of dim light. Those creatures within that aura now get advantage on saving throws, and yes, death saves are saving throws, so that helps too. Any creatures that attack those targets, the Holy Aura'd allies of yours, any enemy that attacks them has to make their attacks with disadvantage. And if it's an undead or a fiend, attacking your ally, they actually have a chance at being blinded by the Holy Aura. So it comes with a lot of moving parts, this spell, but it seemed really cool. It does take a material component, which is a reliquary, or it's a small shrine, essentially, with some holy fabric in it that you're going to have to get a hold of. And level 9 spells, I suggest Mass Heal. That's the most powerful healing spell. You can, like I said, you can target any number of creatures with one action and heal up to 700 hit points divided up between them. It's a lot. It's a level 9 spell. It's cool. You, at the end of the game, at level 20 you still only get one spell slot of level 9. And this, I think, is a useful spell to have ready for that. I had another thought that I had found online, and I thought this is an interesting, and I didn't want to leave this optimization without mentioning it. It's an idea that does take a little effort. Your dungeon master has to play ball with this one in order to work. It can be cool, though. With a cleric, at level 20, your divine intervention becomes an auto success. Your god is going to intervene whenever you use your divine intervention ability. But if you want to risk not having that, or if you're playing a game that's not going to reach level 20, which happens a lot, if you decide to do that, I would also recommend taking a multi-class dip and get 1 level of Druid. Now, why Druid? Druid is a wisdom-based spellcasting class, so your spells that you would pick up from your 1 level of Druid would work with your Cleric abilities, with your wisdom. But they have a specific spell that is Goodberry. Goodberry is a spell where you cast it in the morning or whenever you want, and you create 10 berries that are good. They heal for 1 hit points for every berry that you eat. They make a really good kind of healing moment if someone's down and they're at 0 and you just need them back up and you can't take the time to really do a whole big to-do. You can give them a good berry and they'll heal 1 hit point and they'll be back in the fight. The reason you need some DM help on this one is because there's the idea out there that when you cast good berries and the healing ability of the good berry is cast when you eat it or when someone eats it. That's when the good berry kind of casts their healing ability. So the idea is that with your Disciple of Life ability and your good berry, every time someone eats the good berry, you would be able to add your Disciple of Life bonus to that good berry. Now, good berry is a level 1 spell, so you'll be able to add 3. So each good berry could also heal for 4, potentially. That is the idea behind it. Whether or not your Dungeon Master will allow you to do that and have all your good berries healing 4 health, which takes the total amount from 10 health to 40 health in the good berries, maybe they'll allow it, maybe they won't. It's really up to your Dungeon Master. Personally, my ruling would be, yeah, let's do that. That's fun. If my players can think of that, or if they watch this video and decide they're going to do that, I'm going to allow it. Because it was a creative, interesting idea that I found, and I thought that was really cool. I wish I had thought of it myself. I really do need to go diving more and understanding a lot more of this game and really deep dive into the theory. But that's my take on that. I hope you like this video. This is all about optimizing the Cleric. I've mainly stayed in the Cleric with that one suggestion of a dip into Druid. It had been suggested that I do videos on min-maxing, like a short, similar to this video, very direct, how to min-max a character. But as I was researching that, I'm finding min-maxing is all about having a theme to your build. Not necessarily being the barbarian and min-maxing just the barbarian, that's optimizing. The idea would be to make a character that does one thing very, very perfect. And to min-max optimally, best, you would have to dip into a lot of multi-classing. You would have to take a couple levels of one class, a couple levels of another, and try to get the best effect out of that. And I was thinking about it, I could do it. Let me know if you want to see that kind of stuff later. It might be interesting. It would be a lot more work for me. I would have to do a lot of research, and I'm not opposed to that. Not opposed to it. But if that's something you would enjoy, let me know in the comments below. And as always, I've been Richard. Thanks for watching.